Hello and welcome. I'm Debbie Bergio, and I am joined today by holistic health coach Shannon Spears. Shannon is also pursuing her master's in herbal medicine and the owner of Shannon Spears Wellness. Shannon, thank you so much for joining us and talking to us about eating with the seasons.
Absolutely. It's great to be here and thank you for having me, Debbie. I absolutely love doing these webinars with you. Let's get started. Today, we're going to be learning about eating with the seasons and some of the things that we are going to discuss today. If I can get my slide to move. There we go. We are going to discuss things like why eating with the seasons is important. What are the seasonal impacts on us emotionally and physically? Some of the whole food choices that we have out there for fall and winter seasons. And I'm also going to dive into the herbs that you can look out for to include in your daily nutritional protocol or in teas and things like that for increased immunity during the winter, and also what some of these herbs do as far as like keeping our body warm, and additional tips for staying healthy during the winter. So if you're ready, let's go ahead and dive in. All right.
Absolutely.
Okay, so seasonal eating. Why is it important to eat with the seasons as they change? Well, have you ever wondered why you crave specific foods at certain times of the year? Temperatures are dropping and our bodies are beginning to crave foods that will keep us warm and full. So think of stews and soups and other comfort foods that satisfy us from the inside out. And we all tend to start craving them about the end of August as we move into September and after Labor Day, right? Eating seasonal means that as autumn rolls in, there will be an added emphasis towards our bodies craving root and other sturdy vegetables, warming spices, some fruits, mushrooms, and herbs. And these instinctive messages that our body sends us, whether we listen to them or not, indicate that our body knows what it needs to get through the next season that's coming up. And this is what we call seasonal eating. It's instinctive to the human nature that's been consistent for thousands of years. When we think of cavemen and the famous, you may have heard of the paleo diet, right? That's been named from them. It's kind of based on the foragers' way of eating. So it would have included for them eating what was in season and what they had access to, of course, because they didn't have grocery stores or greenhouses, right? So it's just kind of what was available as the year changed the different seasons. The basis of creating health is eating healthy whole foods and listening to what our bodies instinctively crave and knows what it needs to do its job properly as the seasons change. In winter, our bodies want to stay warm and we want to boost its immune systems to prevent sickness, as well as to be able to keep other toxins out of the body and keep every system running smoothly. Studies have shown that produce grown during its ideal growing period also contains more nutrients than when grown out of season. So fruits and vegetables are at their peak of freshness when they're in season. When we eat produce in our area that's not in season, this means it was most likely shipped from far away. Produce tastes better and it's more nutritious and better for us when it is in season. Just as we need warmer clothes in the winter and we spend more time outdoors in the summer, our dietary requirements change with the seasons. So it makes sense that our diets shift each season to support these changing needs. With the continued rise in obesity, diabetes, autoimmune disorders, and other preventable chronic conditions that are linked to diet and lifestyle, it's important to pay attention to the kinds of food that we are eating. Fresh whole foods free of genetically modified ingredients, any chemicals, hormones, antibiotics, added sugars, vegetable oils, trans fats, and other toxins can be seen as an investment in our health. Specifically, vitamin and mineral rich organic whole foods that are free from added sugars, refined grains, chemical additives, pesticide sprays, and hormones. Now, these harmful additives are the root cause of inflammation, and inflammation in the body is the cause of many chronic diseases and health conditions. The majority of Americans today are overfed and undernourished, though through no fault of their own. The standard American diet that's consumed through fast food, restaurants, and grocery stores is loaded with sugars, unhealthy fats, salts, lots of preservatives. This combination is addicting and it leads to disease. And the addiction of those foods is on purpose by the food industry through the marketing that they do and ingredients that they include. So it's very hard for us to get away from that. We must consider that the leading causes of death today are no longer from infectious and communicable diseases. Instead, they're from chronic diseases that can be avoided through and even treated through diet and lifestyle changes. But instead, they're seen as a natural process of aging, and they're managed through a band-aid of costly prescription drugs. Now, what correlates with this shift in disease paradigm is our shift towards the global industrial food system, the increased sugar consumption, and decreased healthy fat consumption. We've kind of become the guinea pigs of the industrial food industry, excuse me, and we can see the effects from the experiment all around us in the health that we see in ourselves and everyone around us, right? Big food corporations are getting richer while those who consume their products are getting sicker. With this in mind, we need to consider real whole foods as our best source of preventative medicine. As you can see by the chart on this slide, the elimination of processed, highly refined foods, added sugars, vegetable oils, and the introduction of whole seasonal foods will mostly help you see some of the following positive side effects. So you can experience a stronger immune system, increased energy, better moods, mental clarity, reduced stress and anxiety on your body, the elimination and reduction of sugar cravings, even those salty cravings you may have, reduced inflammation and weight loss because you're losing inflammation in your body, improved digestion, fewer aches and pains in your joints, improvement of chronic diseases like type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure, a healthier relationship with food. When we eat whole complex foods, we are not having the cravings. We're also not wanting to snack all the time and do more of what we call boardroom eating, right? Or eating when we're anxious. So you're going to see you have a healthier relationship with food because your body's getting the nutrients that it needs. You'll experience clearer, brighter skin, reduce seasonal allergies because the inflammation is going down in your body. And then you'll also get a new understanding of how food affects your body once you transition from processed foods to more healthy whole foods. Next, we're going to talk about the seasonal impacts on our body from an emotional standpoint and from a physical standpoint, okay? So the next seasons that are coming up first right now are fall and winter. When we look at fall and we ponder how the transfer to fall affects us, we can look to the trees to remind us of what the fall season is all about, right? So the trees have been decked out to their finest, yet they let the leaves go in the fall. And this is because the leaves are no longer serving a purpose to the life of the tree. In order for the tree to thrive, it has to let go of the leaves and allow them to compost into the earth, which then continues to feed the tree with the nutrients that it needs to live. With this time of year, it's best to ask yourself if you're holding on to anything that no longer serves your higher purpose. For some people, these things are material items that are taking up space and no longer used. For others, it's habits like foods, relationships, or feelings like worry and fear. This is a gorgeous time of year to really take a step back, look at ourselves and our lives, and begin stripping away what isn't working for us, what isn't serving us, and get excited about all of life's possibilities that we can see once a lot of that clutter from our minds, from our lives, from our houses is cleared out, okay? Physically, the challenges that we face targets the lungs and the large intestines during the fall and the winter. Respiratory issues and illnesses, viral and bacterial sicknesses that are concerning the lungs, allergies start spiking, we see decreased immune systems, and irregular or consistent bowel movements. More pain in the joints as the weather gets cooler as well can also appear more easily in the fall and winter. Okay. Let's take a look at what fresh foods typically are available at your farmers markets that generally still continue in most parts of the country until December. And then once those end, then we switch our look to what are in the produce sections of our grocery stores so that you can incorporate these into your fall and winter days. And I'm going to go over a little bit, some of the ways that you can incorporate them as well. So for fall foods, Typically, these are foods that are available from September to November. Fall foods tend to have more sour flavors, whereas summer are going to have more of a sweet flavor. Um, Sour flavors in foods generally contain the necessary nutrients to help lubricate the body and counteract fall's dryness. Harvest foods like apples, pears, dates, pumpkins, cranberries, artichokes, tomatoes, peppers, melons, squashes like acorn, zucchini, butternut, hearty greens like kale, spinach, Brussels sprouts, sweet potatoes, cabbage, and also brown rice, whole grains, avocados, grapes. Okay, so those are the fall foods that you want to look for through November that you should be able to get fresh. And then winter foods, generally we determine winter foods from December to February. And winter foods tend to have salty flavors, which help provide higher levels of nutrients to help the body restore itself during the winter season. So these would include things like mushrooms, nuts, beef, onions, garlic, greens like bok choy, broccoli, cauliflower, celery, endives, citrus fruits. We know a lot of citrus fruits are on sale and coming up from places like Florida and from California. So those are going to include pineapple, clementines, grapefruit, lemons, limes, oranges, and tangerines. We also look at root veggies like potatoes, sweet potatoes, purple potatoes, winter squash, and beans, collards, kale, mustard greens, spinach, beets, turnips, and again, still looking at things like whole complex brown rice and whole grains, and avocados and pomegranates. Okay. The simple ways that you can incorporate these into your daily nutritional protocol is a lot of people, we tend to crave those casserole dishes or soups, hearty soups or brothy soups, right? So you can incorporate a lot of these vegetables and fruits into things like that. Doing smoothies, typically during the spring and summer, we're looking more for those cold smoothies. In the winter, you can do such things as warm smoothies as well. So even doing like a warm apple pie smoothie with some things like cardamom and cinnamon and nutmeg in them are really, really helpful for your immune system and help warm the body as well. You can make sauces, so marinara sauces, for instance, right? I know I make a marinara sauce for lasagna sometimes for pasta, where I'm also adding in pumpkin puree. So that's a root vegetable added in with the tomatoes, right? Whole grains, so oats and quinoa and whole wheat, whether you're making using oats and quinoa as a side dish or a breakfast. I'm using whole wheat in breads that are made at home, right? Those hearty whole grain breads. Sometimes we have those ancient grains. We see the word ancient grains now, right? And doing some brown rice. Fermented foods typically help us in the winter, like kefirs, sauerkraut, fermented veggies like pickles and other fermented veggies that you can do. These help to bring in, especially when you've gotten them from the farmer's market or from your own garden, you're able to bring in a lot of those soil prebiotics and probiotics into those fermented foods that are going to help keep your gut healthy all winter long. Okay. Excuse me. All right. So let's talk about some herbs for fall and winter as well. Okay. So you can incorporate herbs into your daily routine. I'm going to actually focus on those ones that help strengthen immunity, that decongest the liver, and herbs that clear stagnation and stimulate warmth in the body, right? Because it's winter, it's fall, it's getting cooler. We just want to stay warm, especially if we have to go outside. So one of the first ones we're going to talk about is oats. When we transition from summer to fall, we want to help stabilize and nourish our nervous system. We're going from days full of sun and warmth, bright colors of nature, and fun to a colder, darker, damper, leaves falling everywhere type of atmosphere, right? It can get kind of depressing. I love fall, but you really have to keep positive in these days because it's very gloomy. So oats are an ideal herb for helping restoring frayed nerves, calming anxiety. Using a nerve support herb like oats can allow you to transition from summer to fall by allowing your parasympathetic nervous system to take the lead and help us experience some grace and calmness when the cold fronts appear. Okay. Hawthorn. Hawthorn is a cardiovascular strengthener. With seasonal changes, the heart can feel more strained than normal. So our bodies respond to the onset of colder weather as a direct stressor for our body. Colder weather can also increase blood pressure and blood clotting. So hawthorn can help strengthen the heart muscles themselves and increase blood flow to the heart without increasing blood pressure. Hawthorn can be used in tea or tincture form as a daily tonifier and strengthener for our heart. Ginger, one of my favorite. It's in my cup right now. I've got lemon, ginger, and honey in here. So when cold days start setting in after the long warm days of summer, it can obviously be a big shock to our bodies, right? Our muscles start to contract and tighten up, and that creates congestion in our circulatory system. Ginger is commonly used to help stimulate our bodies and get that blood flowing throughout. Okay. Ginger also helps to warm up the exterior of our body and clears general symptoms of viruses that we may be having. So one of the first things I do when I'm just not feeling up to par, I'm feeling a little off, sometimes you get that little tickle in the back of your throat, right? The first thing I reach for is ginger and put it in a tea with some lemon and honey, right? It is one of the top antiviral herbs. It fights off viruses naturally. And I always recommend to my clients that they incorporate ginger somehow every day into their nutrition, whether it's using it in a stir fry or, sprinkling ginger powder on foods or something or in a smoothie or having a cup of tea with it, okay? Because as the weather gets colder, it pushes us to stay indoors. Common viruses tend to proliferate. Well, the cooling of the seasons is associated with flu, right? And a lot of times things like pneumonia, things of that nature. So ginger is that main herb that is associated with warding all of those off, okay? You can even do things like those ginger chews that are made from real ginger. They've got a little of that sugar coating on them. But most of the time, the ones that are the big brands that are out there, it is just 100% dried ginger. So it's really good. Just using a couple of those as like a lozenge throughout the day will help as well. Okay. So burdock is the next one I want to talk about. And this is a plant that many of you have growing right now in your yards. You see it as a big weed. This is a plant that can get to be like 6 feet tall. It's very hard to pull the root out because the root goes so deep. But this is one of those wild herbs growing everywhere that is so very important during winter. It's a liver supporting herb and it's bitter in flavor, so it stimulates the flow of digestive juices to assist in smooth digestion and bowel movements. Burdock helps us transition from summer to fall by bringing the body back into a state of balanced health. Some main indicators of body imbalances you may see are skin issues. So when you're using burdock and you notice skin issues starting to resolve, you know that you're going in the right direction, okay, of bringing your body back to balance. Burdock root is harvested in the fall and it can be cooked and eaten as a root vegetable. You can also use it in herbal teas, and you'll also find it as a main ingredient in what we call herbal bitters, formulas that are called herbal bitters, and that is just drops that are made from bitter herbs that stimulate the digestive juices in your digestive tract. And typically you'll take 1 or 2 dropperfuls of those herbal bitters and mix it in with some water and drink it before you eat a heavy meal. You also, if any of you are drinkers, you've been to the bar, you've seen them put something like bitters into a drink to give it more of a bitter flavor. It's the same thing. It's the same thing that they're using. Okay. All right, Tulsi. This is one of my absolute favorite herbs. It's an adaptogenic herb, and adaptogenic herbs can help support a healthy stress response through balancing different processes in the body. And since colder weather can incite our body's stress response to ramp up, obviously using mild adaptogens like Tulsi can be extremely helpful. Tulsi works like oats to help keep us in our rest and digest state through the challenges that the seasonal changes bring. Tulsi is also used traditionally to open up the heart and the mind to allow clarity and receptivity into the body. So this is a key piece, especially for those that feel guarded or clouded during seasonal transitions, especially when going from warmth to colder. Okay. Of course, cinnamon. We all know cinnamon, right? We have it in our pantries. Cinnamon is penetrating and dispersing herb that helps move blood, heat, and molecules in a diffuse manner throughout the body, meaning it gets to everything. Okay. Cinnamon helps dilate the lungs and digestive system to allow a greater flow of fluids, heat, and vital energy through them that the body needs. So cinnamon can help support the body through fevers. It can help move mucus through the body more easily in times of respiratory congestion, which we typically tend to get during the winter, right? It can also help to balance blood sugar, help in digestion, strengthen the immune system, and keeping the body warm. Because it's warming and circulating, you want to avoid using when there's great amounts of inflammation in the body, or if you have any type of bleeding in the digestive tract. Well, come on. There we go. Okay, garlic. A lot of us are very familiar with garlic. Most of us have it in our refrigerator already minced, or we have it in our cabinets as a powder, or we've got it in, our pantry with potatoes and onions and things like that, right? So garlic is important to help warm the tissues in the body and strengthens the immune system, fighting off viral and bacterial infections for us. Due to its warming properties, garlic should never be used during the summer because it will tend to make your body too warm. Garlic is also a circulatory herb, so it increases the blood circulation in the body. It's also like cinnamon and ginger, so it helps get any stuck mucus flowing through the body, so it can be easily expelled through coughing or through bowel movements. Garlic also helps the spleen process easier, which activates the metabolism and in turn creates energy that it can send throughout the body. Okay, so a very important ingredient to remember when you're feeling down, you're down with a cold, you're down with the flu, right? Because there's a lot of benefits that this has. A lot of times when we're doing things like chicken noodle soup and broth and stuff, this is a really big main ingredient, right? And that's the reason why. And the last one is black pepper. Okay, so again, something we all have in our kitchen. Black pepper helps modulate the immune system. It helps with oxidative harmful processes in the body. It reduces inflammation and helps in microbial and parasitic infections in the body. Black pepper is also a warming herb, right? And it helps stimulate the digestive tract as well. It also has blood cleansing properties, and it's used in many herbal formulas to support the body during colds, congestion, infections, and inflammation. It also helps with muscle spasms, and especially in relation to fall and winter time, it helps with depression. A lot of times now you'll see a lot of muscle oils that are made with essential oils in a base of like almond oil or something like that. And black pepper is generally almost always an ingredient in those because of the warmth that it can bring to muscles and helping them to relax. All right, so some additional key herbs to remember in the kitchen to cook with. And if you remember my webinar that we did in the spring, we talked a lot about some of the ones I'm going to mention, and they still apply here. They apply year round, really, okay? So that's rosemary, oregano, cayenne, thyme, sage, any types of mints, onion. All of these are immune boosting herbs, and you always usually have them in your kitchen, whether they're dried or powdered. But I also recommend that you grow some of these, each of these in a little garden container, on your counter for indoor during the winter. It makes it so much easier to be able to have them growing in your kitchen in a small container like that, to just cut some off when you need some in a soup, or you want to pop them into a tea because you're not feeling very well, right? Rather than having to go to the store and get fresh, or wondering if the dried herbs in your cabinet are fresh enough to use and to get any results from, right? So let's see, you can experiment with these. So, we talked about some of the other herbs that, we have for the fall and winter, right? So you can take some rosemary and some thyme, and you can mix it with a little cut of ginger, right? And make a tea. You can combine it with hawthorn if you want something with a berry flavor. During winter, closer to Christmas, we see a lot of teas that have berry flavors and a little bit of a spice to them, right? So even doing like cardamom and things like that with them are really good, or putting a fresh cinnamon stick in there. Okay, you can add citrus fruits because those are some of the things you should be eating during the winter, citrus fruits, right? So adding them into a tea like that is good. And some of the additional warming herbs that I didn't talk about previously, you probably have these in your cabinet as well, because many of these are used in spice cookies, spice breads, gingerbread cookies, chai tea. Okay, so we're more familiar with those things for the winter season. These are going to be cardamom, nutmeg, cayenne, cloves, star anise. If you don't have any of these in your cabinet, I would definitely recommend that you get them and keep them stocked up for the winter in your spice cabinet. And that way you can add these to teas, to warm milk, to some baked goods, casseroles, and things like that. Okay. All right, so importance of healthy movement. So we've talked about how our body changes, right, as we move through the different seasons. We spend all spring and summer outside doing activities, keeping our bodies moving. And like bears, when that cold weather starts to set in, we have that instinct to move inside and just kind of hibernate and not do much, right? And it is a season of resting and relaxing, right? But as humans, we're not meant to hibernate in the same way bears do. We certainly move inside. That doesn't mean we have to stop being active. We just need to get more creative in the ways that we keep ourselves moving. While we'll focus most of our time being active inside, that certainly doesn't mean we also won't be going outside for daily walks for 30 minutes or something, right? If you are someone who is accustomed to going out and taking that daily walk, I really don't recommend that you stop going for that daily walk. You may switch where you do it at, but for myself, even like there are days where I don't want to, but I know that building up with as the weather changes, continuing to walk outside, even if it's just for 20 minutes, will help your body adjust to the changes in the weather, to the changes in the light pattern for our circadian rhythm, and helping us to sleep better as well. So if you can do it outside and weather permits, it's really good to continue doing that. But if you do need to move inside, that's fine as well. Just find a safe place you can do that, like the mall, a local YMCA, or anything like that. Okay. All right, so some other things, you can do. You obviously you want to be gentle with yourself, right? But some other choices you have may be like indoor swimming in a heated pool, like at the YMCA, doing some daily stretching, taking a yoga class a few times a week, or even just following along with a yoga video at home. Some things that you can try are like restorative yoga. They're very slow. They're very intentful, and just bringing you to realize where you are, kind of slow everything down, but still get those joints stretched out so the fluids are really moving through them. And we're still, kind of preparing, during winter, we're preparing our bodies to rest, but at the same time, we're keeping them active because when spring comes, we're going to want to get back out there, right? You can even do, things like exercise bike or treadmill, elliptical machine, things like that, okay? Another importance as we age and we go into the different changing of the seasons is looking at self-care. And self-care really involves things like chiropractic care and restorative massage, right? So winter's a perfect time to focus on that self-care and what our bodies and our minds need. We spend a lot more time inside at a slower pace, which allows us to reflect more on the things we want to do, things we want to change. As we talked about in the beginning of the presentation today, what are some things that you need to change and let go of? What are some ways you can slow down and take some time for yourself, and to figure out what your body and your mind really need, okay? Winter's a perfect time to snuggle up under a warm, cozy blanket and catch up on reading, do some knitting or crocheting, take up a nice, hot, relaxing bath with some bath salts, some herbs or essential oils, or even get in the kitchen and catch up on some baking with your kids or grandkids, if that's something that you enjoy. So some of the other ways that I've listed here to improve your self-care over the winter months is to get started with chiropractic care if you haven't already. So chiropractic care has evolved so much in the last 20 years or so. There's many options available to help you open up the systems through which our nervous system and our vascular systems flow through. So to tie that in with everything we've talked about today, our muscles contract. Some of the foods that we're eating when we're inside and not active can cause blood vessels to contract and everything, right? So we want to keep all of those systems flowing freely. We also want our lymphatic systems to start flowing freely. And those are little glands that are throughout our body, like our armpits, in our groin area, even in our neck area, that help to move the toxic fluids in our body through and out through urine and bowel movements. So a lot of times in winter times, these lymphatic systems can get stuck. So doing things like chiropractic care to help open up all of those systems can help the lymphatic system work even better to make sure it's keeping the body detoxified. Okay. Certain techniques that chiropractors have now are things like the activator technique and the torque release technique. These are great for older communities as it's more focused on gently helping the body to get back in place of balance rather than the traditional rough manipulations that we typically tend to associate with chiropractic care. Okay. Speaking of ways of getting our joints and fluids to move more easily through our body, it would be a really good idea to set yourself up for weekly or bi-weekly massages. Doing things like restorative massage really focuses on getting those fluids moving rather than just, massaging the muscles a little bit to make us feel better and relax, right? There's a big difference in different types of massages. So when you're looking for a massage therapist, and a lot of them will come to your house now rather than you going somewhere else, you just want to make sure that you're asking them what type of massage therapy do they do. Okay. Getting a weekly massage will help keep that lymphatic system open and flowing correctly so that your body is being absolutely protected and supported as it moves throughout the winter season. And who doesn't love a nice massage, right? It helps us get back to focusing and enjoying life in the moment, right? So I hope that you have enjoyed this presentation today. I hope that I've given you some great tips and things to remember, and that, if you have any questions, you can reach out to me. My website is shannonspearswellness.com. You can get a hold of me from my contact form. And if you would like to set up a discovery session with me to talk about some additional ways you can improve your health, you absolutely can do that. I offer a free 30-minute discovery session. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I have enjoyed educating you on all this information today.
Shannon, thank you so much. Just listening to talk about the leaf from the very beginning, talking about the leaves falling, the trees losing their leaves, letting go of things, just things I never thought about. And as we move towards, I am one of those people who really, really loves the sunlight, and as we have less of it during the winter, but just kind of putting it all together with how the foods that we start to really look forward to support us in that time. Just things I never thought about, the sour versus the salty, and salt. I guess the saltiness in the winter also helps us remember to hydrate.
Yes. Yes. And if we think about it,
time.
Right, when the trees go into hibernation, right, it's because they don't have a lot of moisture. The ground is frozen, so they can't get a lot of the moisture from snow and things like that, right? So they go into that hibernation and they don't have that water. So again, another relation to nature that God provided, right? That saltiness absolutely reminds us, oh, I need some water here.
Yeah, absolutely. Just things that I love thinking about how that all comes together, but your specifics about which spices that we can use. But giving up garlic in the summertime, that might be hard for me. I can't cook if I don't use my garlic.
Yeah, it is hard, but it's like, do you cook with garlic in the morning? No. Do you cook with garlic more in the afternoon? No, it's usually in the evening when those hot days are cooling down, right?
That's a good point.
And of course, we also have air conditioning. So even
Okay.
though it's hot outside, if we've got air conditioning and we're keeping it at 68 degrees in here, right?
Oh, that'd be
Typically,
nice, but
typically that's kind of the same thing we're doing in the winter, right? A lot
yeah,
of people
yeah.
tend to keep it at 68 to 70 for the winter as far as heat, right? But if you're someone who doesn't have AC or you spend a lot of time outdoors in the summer, garlic
Mm-hmm.
is not the one you want to cook with frequently. It's okay every now and then, but
Okay.
it's going to make you hotter.
That's good to know. But yeah, and then I was thinking about you were talking about the soups and warm smoothies. Now, do we have a recipe that we can share for that apple pie smoothie that we can?
Yeah, I can send that to you so you can share that out with everybody.
Because
Absolutely.
that
Yeah.
sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's
But
one of my favorites.
a good bowl of butternut squash soup.
Yep. Yeah,
I
and you can season it however you like. A lot of people like
mm-hmm,
to leave it kind of plain with just some salt and pepper, but you can add some things like nutmeg in there, right? You can
yeah,
make it more,
absolutely.
however your family wants it, whatever's going to, especially when you have kids or teenagers, things like that,
Mm-hmm.
putting some of those additional spices in there are really going to make them want to, try that.
And also a really, I don't want to say sneaky, a good way to put some nutrients into things that will support our health without it being like, oh, we have to do this because it's healthy. We're going to do this because it just tastes good.
Right. Yeah. So some of those ways also would be, like I said in my presentation, doing pumpkin puree in a tomato sauce for marinara, right? You
Mm-hmm.
literally cannot tell the difference. The tomato puree and the pumpkin puree are the same. It makes the sauce a little bit lighter, not so bright red,
Mm-hmm.
but you really don't notice a difference. Even making pizza sauces with it, doing things like, making zucchini bread, right? A lot of people make zucchini bread this time of year, zucchini cookies, zucchini brownies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are types of things that you don't really notice. I mean, it's like a spice bread. I used to be like, I'm never eating zucchini. And then somebody gave me a zucchini muffin. I didn't realize it was zucchini. They called it a spice muffin because they knew I like
Okay.
spice bread. No
You didn't know.
difference. Didn't know
Yeah.
the difference. I've also had things like avocado brownies made from avocados
Yes.
and black
Yes.
beans, or pudding made from avocados.
Pudding. Yes. I make avocado pudding.
Never knew it,
Yep.
you
Yeah.
know.
My daughter
So,
makes barbecue sauce with pumpkin puree. We can't eat
mhm,
tomatoes. So that was just
yep.
something else. It's amazing that the marinara, as you said, pizza sauce, anything with pumpkin puree, and it tastes
Yep.
great
We're
because it's so much about the
programmed.
seasoning.
It is, and we're programmed after so many years to cook things like Betty Crocker did,
Hmm.
who by the real is not a real person. It's literally a marketing ploy to sell that whole line of cookbooks and products eventually as they came up with,
Wow.
their
Wow.
cake mixes and
Okay.
everything. So, but we're programmed by the food industry to cook like that. So a lot of us, have grown up with that.
Hmm.
Generations have grown up with that. So to think about doing these things in a different way, unless we see a recipe or we've tried it and gone, well, what's in that? And someone tells us, we don't think about it,
No,
right?
you really don't. You don't.
But this
Well,
is how
thank you for.
people cooked all the time
Yeah,
before
I was
Betty
just gonna say this
Crocker.
is this is how people cooked back when people were a lot healthier.
Yes.
With sticking close to nature. And eating seasonally is something I always thought sounded like a really good buzzword or phrase.
Yeah.
But you explaining it how the different kinds of foods that are seasonally
Naturally available.
naturally
Yep.
make such a difference. So we have to do this again, like in
And
March or
yeah, so we
February
could do
to get
spring
us
and
ready for
summer.
spring and summer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll mark my calendar.
All right.
All
So
right.
Shannon shared her information, and that'll be on our web page. And with this recording, and this recording will be up pretty soon. As soon as I can get it turned around and posted. So
And
Shannon,
I'll
thank
share
you
that
so much.
recipe with you.
Oh yes, that'd be great. Yeah, I'll include that there too.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Oh, it's a pleasure to see you.